All right, guys, maybe you're out there and you've been smoking cigars for a little bit of time, but you're afraid to step into the land of pepper.
The dark side.
Maybe you've been smoking Connecticut's or Habanos, but when it comes to the dark leaf, you're a little scared of guys like JB.
You want more flavor.
Maybe when it comes to dark cigars, you think that all dark cigars are created the same in the image of the devil, and they're too hot for you. Well, guys, welcome back again to the Zeal Cigar Review. Today, we're going to give you 3 transitional cigars that can move you from Connecticut, Habano, into Maduro land. All next on the Zeal Cigar Review.
You know what's funny about that?
What's that?
I feel like more people are afraid to try Maduros, but I feel like there's more Habanos to me that are harder to smoke than Maduros.
I would 1,000% agree with you. Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, the least smoked cigars out of this building for me personally, including our own, are Habanos.
Absolutely. And when it comes to Habanos, what cigar makers are doing, they're tending to take like stronger tobacco and put them into Habanos, and so people are getting used to like stronger tobacco and like what they think is a milder cigar, but it really actually blows them away. For example, the Perdomo Champagne is actually a very strong cigar. It's not a very light cigar. I forget what it was, but Nick Perdomo told me at one point that like there's a lot of nicotine in that cigar, right? I mean, yeah.
Well, I just did a video the other day where I blindfolded somebody, and I was like, I couldn't believe how often that Perdomo Champagne is given to first-time smokers.
And it's a strong cigar.
Because I feel like it's going to make so many people sick.
Exactly. So, well, if you're used to smoking mild cigars, which majority of people do, we want to give you 3 options to move you easily into what we call flavor country and or Maduro land. And so we've got 3 cigars here from really our house blends, because the very first cigar actually does a really good job of doing the transitioning for you. Wouldn't you agree?
I'm just envisioning you being somebody who names Disney parks at Disney.
Yeah, dude.
You're just like
Maduro
Flavorland. Maduro Town.
I
take a trip down Cocoa River.
I'll tell you what, man.
Tobacco plantation.
Cigars are so much a part of my life that once in a while I dream about them. And this
Fred Durst Roll House.
This very first cigar that we're going to talk about, we've talked about before, but a lot of people, for whatever reason, get kind of sketched on it. But I want to give you 2 flavors that I believe this cigar actually produces, more so than any other flavor. And then I want you to look at the cigar differently than maybe you did at the first part. And that is, of course, boom, the Double Down. This cigar, obviously you can tell, goes from light into a darker wrapper. And so it's got a pigtail on it. And to be honest with you, it kind of goes from what I would call caramel into like a dark, rich chocolate. But the spice on that cigar is not necessarily really, really spicy. Would you agree?
No, if there's anything off-putting to somebody in this personally, it's the fact that it's like a really dark cocoa.
It is.
It's like almost a little bit of a bitterness sometimes.
Like a cacao.
Yeah.
Like cacao.
Like when you get to like the last inch or so, there's a little bit of some of like that rich bitterness, if you're not used to, might be a little bit different.
But it's so good, to be quite honest with you. And so that's one of the first cigars that we would absolutely recommend for you to actually transition with, because you're smoking something that's very familiar to you in the like Connecticut or the Habano right there. And it's very caramely, very smooth, very woodsy. But as you transition at this part right here, it starts to get very, very, very chocolatey. But it's not like a boom, it hits you right away. It's like a smoother transition into it. Yeah. And I absolutely love this cigar for that reason, because if you're thinking to yourself like, what do I smoke, and you want 2 cigars in one, this cigar is like that basically, isn't it?
Yeah, if it's like midday and I'm like, I really don't want to smoke a Connecticut, but I don't really want to smoke anything stronger right now, you could totally get away with that.
Oh yeah. The Double Down is it's just one of those cigars that are just amazing. And there's other cigars that have like quadrants in them. There's like 4 or 5 different quadrants, but this one actually set the tone for us. And it is caramel and chocolate delight the whole time. But you have to be ready for the chocolate, because there's a little bit of a peppery, more of a bitter chocolate there.
Those are good golf sticks, especially in the longer and bigger sizes like the Churchill and the Gordo.
Yeah.
Because if you're somebody that smokes one cigar through your whole golf round, then it kind of changes on you. So it's kind of like getting to smoke 2 different cigars.
Yeah.
I smoke 2 a golf round.
Yeah.
Typically, because that's how long it takes me to get through the first 9 usually.
Sure.
It just kind of mixes it up for you, you know. It's almost like literally, like you said, almost like having 2 different cigars.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, the second cigar that we've chosen is a transition cigar, and I'm gonna let you talk about this one because this is actually one that you fought to bring in, if I'm correct in this.
Well, it wasn't this one that I fought to bring in. It was its older brother, which is the mind-blown Maduro.
Oh, that's right.
That was the one that's got Ometepe and Lajero in it, so it's a much more
and that is a
bold,
stronger cigar that I would stay away from if you're a lighter smoker.
But the Brass Monkey doesn't have any of the Ometepe or Lajero leaf in it. It's mostly Nicaraguan, but it's got a little bit more of a smoother smoke to it than I would say some other Maduros. Like the Liga Midnight or the Primordial are going to have a much denser, thicker, meatier smoke to it, heartier. This is going to be a little bit lighter, but it still has a little bit to it if I remember. I haven't had one of these in a while, but if I remember, it still has a little bit more of a body to it. So this is going to be, out of the ones on the table, I would say the one with probably the most to it.
I will say this in particular about that cigar. If there was a cigar for me that I thought really nailed the My Father Le Bijou 1922, that's a cigar in the Sanitarium Maduro.
It's a little bit smokier.
Yeah, I would say it's mesquite.
Yeah, a little bit more
mesquite in it. Yeah, a little bit more mesquite, a little more fire curedness to it,
and it doesn't have the same spice that the Le Bijou has.
You can't replicate.
But no, I would say the Sanitarium Madhouse Maduro, which is just a little bit of a blend up from the Brass Monkey, is gonna have a little bit more closer to that Le Bijou that you're talking about. But even still, I'd say smoother.
The final cigar that we're talking about actually came to us in a very mysterious way. I'll tell you the history behind it because if you've been watching the channel here for a little bit, maybe Justin doesn't even know this. But one day I was sitting here, and very early on, must have been maybe a year into Zeal Cigars, and I was sitting here doing a prep for a video, and a big box of cigars showed up, and I sat there and I looked at it and so on and so forth, and they had no return address or anything else on that. They just had,
which is so. God, if I had $1 for every time if you're a manufacturer and you're watching this, please send a business card with the stuff that you send, so at least I know who to contact if I like the cigars I'm smoking.
It happens often.
How many times that happens?
Yeah, it happens all the time. People send us stuff and not a lot of people make the cut, to be quite honest. Some people don't. But this cigar in particular is a Habano and there's a Maduro. Both of them were incredible. The Habano remind me of the My Father Flor de las Antilles, and the Maduro. Really, and just to be honest with you, I was smoking at the time, the Sin Compromiso by Steve Saka.
Okay.
I was smoking that Dunbarton Tobacco. And I smoked this, and there wasn't too much, not a complete difference, but I actually ended up liking this one better because it was smoother. So, and that cigar is, of course, the King's Comeback. This cigar actually blew my mind the first time I tried it. I couldn't believe how good the smoothness and the cocoa notes and the chocolate and the smokiness it was. It produces a lot of smoke, and it's a very good Maduro for the value and for the price. I know today that we're not necessarily smoking through the cigars and mostly suggesting these cigars for people that want to transition, but when it comes to transitioning, when you want to fully transition, I'd probably go with, like Justin said, this one right here, which is, of course, the Brass Monkey. But if you go 1, as you're transitioning, 2, you're going to love this because this is like a chocolate bar, and then this right here is your final transition into Maduro cigars. Albeit not peppery Maduro cigars, but lighter Maduro cigars. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah. So what else about the King's Comeback do you like?
It's just... It's one of the ones, now typically the wrapper's a little bit darker. That's one that's got a little bit lighter shade to it. So it looks really intimidating, and people will not reach for that cigar on a regular basis. I would say another one that's like that's probably the Charter Oak and probably the Magic Toast from Alec Bradley.
Right.
All 3 of those look super dark, but they smoke more medium with a really light, smooth, full flavored creaminess. They're just really good cigars.
They are.
And I don't think that there's not much off-putting from the King's Comeback or either one of those 2 really that I mentioned that would make you not want to or want to stop smoking it if you've never smoked something stronger before.
Right. It's a very, very, very good cigar, and it's something that you should definitely try in your repertoire of cigars if you're transitioning from Connecticut's and Habanos into what I call Maduro land or flavor country. So I will say this about Maduro cigars in general. I believe that Maduro cigars give you the option of having more flavors than almost any other wrapper there are. I really believe that. When it comes to cigar, do you prefer box press or round? Which one? And how does it change comparatively?
I would say generally if I have the same cigar that's in a box press and a round, I would probably generally gravitate towards the box pressed first.
Why?
Typically from my experience, and there's a couple theories and I can go over those real quick, I tend to get a little bit of a smoother, sweeter smoke from a box press cigar.
100%.
I'm not necessarily better in some ways, but just in my opinion, I like them a little bit more.
Sure sounds better.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, in order to box press them, a lot of times they have to take a little bit of the filler leaf out. So maybe there's some filler leaf that they're throwing in to add that's not really super flavorful that now they're taking out, so the flavor, the better tobacco is getting accentuated.
That's possibly.
The other random theory is that tobacco leaves are very porous, and when they're squished, there is a possibility that the oils are then kind of squeezed out, and maybe they mix a little bit and ferment. Those are my two random theories about why a box press cigar would be better than a round one.
I have yet to find a round cigar in a box press that are in the same blend that the round is better.
Really?
I have not found one yet.
You know, I think I prefer the round King's Envy over the box pressed ones. I think I've said that before on camera.
I prefer the box press of all those blends.
See, I normally would too. Even
Yeah,
the Rhapsody,
yeah.
I preferred the box press.
Absolutely.
Well, that's not true. I preferred the round Rhapsody over the box press because it was a little grassier.
Well, as you guys are transitioning, and as you guys are thinking about going from Connecticut, Habano, and you're going into Maduro land, the question is, how will you transition? Have you found some transition cigars out there that you like transitioning with? Drop a comment below and let us know what your transition cigars are. And may we suggest from our humidors to yours, the best transition cigars that we think would be great for your palates would be, of course, the Double Down first, where you go through the creaminess into a little bit of the chocolate, then going with the King's Comeback, which is smooth chocolate all the way through, and then finally kicking up to the cacao or the bitter chocolate.
Funky Monkey.
The Funky Monkey, the Brass Monkey Maduro. So drop a comment below, let us know what your favorite transition cigars are and what advice you guys would have for other people that are transitioning from lighter cigars into heavier cigars. Drop a comment below and you'll meet us there. So for the Zeal Cigar Review, I've been Bradley, he's been JB, and we're out of here. You guessed it, like what?
Last year.
Peace.